Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery, great to be with you this Wednesday morning, April 22nd, 2026. We get together most weekday mornings to educate on the topic of accessing capital. What does it take for an entrepreneur, for a small business owner, to be able to get a large business loan in 30 days or less? So, with that being said, we're going to call our topic today the formula for funding. And that's well named because we are going to talk about the formula for funding this morning. And on the title page here, you see two important resource sites. You may want to take note of those. Formulaforfunding.com is where someone would go if they're looking to submit their request to participate in the grant and be able to receive a special purpose entity, which I'll describe and discuss here in the next few minutes. Secondly, is the spefunding.com resource site that has lots of detailed trainings on how the SPE works, its different attributes. So if you're real analytical and want to dig in more than what we can cover here briefly in the morning, go to spefunding.com for a lot more information. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get to our agenda. We're going to do a brief introduction. We're going to talk about the truth about getting business funding. Some of these elements of truth that we'll talk about, you may be surprised by, and maybe you even disagree. So we can certainly banter a bit when and if you feel necessary. But from our experience of working with thousands and thousands of small businesses, we're going to talk about some truths that we feel that everyone should know. And by not knowing those, that could inhibit or even prohibit your ability to get funding. Thirdly, we are going to go through the formula for funding. Our goal is at the end of today's session that anyone can go take that formula for funding and use it on their own, or you're welcome to participate in a grant. But we do need to make sure that you understand at the end of today's topic what the formula for funding is. So if you are ready for a large capital raise, you can certainly obtain that. We're going to address kind of an interesting, not a controversial, but a contrarian approach to raising capital. We're going to introduce a legal loophole. And nothing about it gray, nothing about inappropriate or illegal, of course. But we're going to talk about how entrepreneurs can leverage a technique to be able to have a successful capital raise very quickly. And then lastly, we want to determine if you qualify or not, how to qualify to participate if you wish to. So, quite a bit to cover in the next few minutes. With the introduction, we always like to start with two questions. And in our morning sessions, we have between 400 and 700 people most mornings. Now, some of the attendees are the same people that attend every day, which that's fine. Some are our referral partners who are bringing in prospective grant participants, which is fine. And then, of course, we have just a mix of new people. So forgive me if you've been on before, but let's go ahead and go through those two questions. It plays a significant, important role of our discussion today, even though it may not seem like it at first to you. So the first question that I have for you, and I'd like you to take just a moment to respond into the Q&A, into the chat box, is simply, are you happy with the money that you have now? Now, that's referring to your business. So I'm assuming you either are a current or prospective business owner. And the question is, do you have adequate funding? Do you have adequate capital? Do you have adequate access to capital to reach your potential? Yes or no, if you don't mind typing a response in. And then the follow-up to that is really important. If not, how much more money do you need for your business in the next 30 days? So we're looking at a really narrow time frame, not a year, not infinitely in the future, but right away, how much money do you need? You might be surprised, maybe not. A lot of the folks that come to us often have not vetted through the answer to that second question. They want money, they need money, but do they really know what they want it or need it for? And part of what we need to do is understand what lenders look for. And for business loans, especially larger business loans, they're going to want to know, what do you want the money for? And of course, we can work with you and massage it so it's presented in such a way that it's not a barrier to getting approved for funding. But from your perspective, you need to know what you need money for. If not, do you really want to take on the debt? So, a responsible first step would be to put together a list. Here are the things that I need, and here's how much each of them cost, and you add them all up, and that tells you what your short-term capital raise is. Do most, we have 627 of you on at this moment. How many of you have a detailed list of what you need your funding for? So if you could just type yes or no. Do you have you stopped being busy, stopped wanting money, stopped needing money, and literally created a list? Now, that list, if we are not yet operational in the industry, they call that a resource plan. Here are the things that I would need to spend money on to get open for business. And then conversely, if the business is already open, then the question is, what do I need extra money for to grow or to take that next launch forward? But that's really important because what you need money for is going to determine which lenders we go to, what type of loan programs that we should proceed with. Do we need money? Do we need money to buy real estate, to buy equipment? Is it just working capital? So it is important that you're able to answer how much, which is the question on the screen, but also what's the breakdown? What do you need that for? That may be a homework assignment for you if you don't know the answer to that. All right, so we talked about or introduced the concept of formula for funding, and before we end today's discussion, you will understand the formula for funding. It's like a recipe, right? If you and I were going to bake a cake, it would be helpful to have a recipe to follow. Well, if our goal is to get business funding, it'd be really helpful to understand what do banks look for approval. Because if we give them what they want, then we can get approved. We're going to also talk about the SPE, special purpose entity. Now, this can be a lot for people if you don't have a frame of reference. Some people, like KE and others, call it a special purpose vehicle. But in either case, it's a unique approach to raising capital. And we're going to establish today, I think you'll agree, that it is the smart choice for getting business funding. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Let's go ahead and cover some of the truths, and that's important so we have a common understanding, a common foundation of what it is that we need to plan for. So, first of all, anyone can get a large business loan, but legally and ethically, but it follows the concept we've introduced. We do need to meet what the lenders are looking for. But it's absolutely true that there's many banks and credit unions and other types of lenders that do want to loan money to businesses. The money's out there. It's just, do you want to go grab it or not? The money is out there. Do you want to grab it or not? Now, most of you, we're up to 630 now on the live Zoom. Many of you at the beginning, when I asked you the question, do you need more money? Most of you said yes. So the good news is the money's there. We're going to talk for the next few minutes about how to get that money that you want, that you need. The underlying rule, though, that some people don't like and many people want to ignore is if you want to get business funding, you must have a fundable business. And I'll describe in more detail what that exactly means. But you can't just skip that step. You can't want money so badly that lenders don't care if you qualify. That's not going to happen. You can't need money so badly that lenders don't care if you qualify, that they're just going to give it to you. You've got to qualify. You need to have a fundable business. And again, we'll break that down, what that means. But I need you to accept that as a truth because otherwise it's easy to get frustrated. It's easy to blame others. Well, I don't have my funding. I don't have my money and it's someone else's fault. Well, the question has to be more introspective than that. Is my business fundable? And if not, I need to resolve that problem before I can expect to get funding. So we need to consider that and act responsibly regarding that. Now, if we agree on bullet one that there's lots of money out there, which is a fact, it's a truth. And secondly, if we need to have a fundable business to get that money, which is a fact, it's a truth, then we need to determine how are we going to go about having a fundable business. And there's really two strategies, only two. We can either build a fundable business or we can go out and buy a fundable business and then use whichever case to get the business funding. Buy versus build, and that's true in many aspects of life. Buy versus build. So build is historically what a lot of people have done, and it's frankly how we got started. When the three of us left the SBA, started the nonprofit, started doing this through the 501c3, we were really focused on the build option, and we still help some clients with the build. But I think it's an inferior, it's a less good approach. The buy is the way to go. And I'll go to my deathbed now knowing, and I hope you will agree, that to buy a fundable business to go get funding is infinitely better than building one, unless you're so close already that there's just a couple tweaks that need to be done. So, how do we go buy a fundable business? Well, there's lots of places we can buy businesses from. There might be businesses for sale in your community. There's Biz Buy Sell, a national website of businesses for sale. But there's also some unique ways to buy a fundable business, which we'll get to. But we just need to come to common agreement. Lots of money out there. Banks want to loan money. That's not a problem. We do need to be fundable. We do need to meet the underwriting to get it, though. Okay, how do we get that fundability status? We either build a fundable business or we buy one. I want you to please consider buying one, regardless if you want to work with us in our grant or not. I don't care about that. But the buy is going to be the better option 99 times out of 100 because it's quicker. All right, continuing the truths, just two more. If we agree that money's out there, we need to be fundable, and the buy option is the better route to go rather than building a fundable business, then the question is, well, can I afford to go buy a fundable business to go get funding off of? And a lot of people think that they can't. But there are models, there are strategies where you don't have to spend any money out of pocket to buy a fundable business. And then you could run that fundable business if you want. Let's say you bought the local restaurant in town. If you bought the restaurant, could it continue selling food and making money as well as using that to go get a loan? Absolutely. Could you close the restaurant down because you don't want to run it, but you really just needed its credibility to go get a loan? Sure, you could do that as well. But the bottom line is do not think that you can't afford to buy a fundable business because anyone can afford to buy one, and we'll describe that momentarily. Lastly, people often will want to say, well, this may be all fine, but I can't qualify. I'd never qualify. My credit's bad, or I'm in a bad financial position. I'll show you that through that legal loophole, anyone can follow this strategy, even if we've got shitty credit, even if we've got money problems. So our model is a proven approach. I mentioned that Mark, Chuck, and I, we all came from the SBA. We have, through that role, we worked with thousands of companies helping them get funded. The bottom line, this is not too good to be true. This isn't some sales pitch. The bottom left paragraph, it's just give lenders what they want and they will approve you. And that's true with many things in life, right? We talked the other day, I forget who it was. I think it might have been Sanya. You know, when Sanya applied to law school, she researched what does Harvard, what does Yale, what does Princeton want to admit her to law school. So she presented the LSAT, the undergraduate GPA, the letters of reference. So if you know what the requirements are, then you can simply meet the requirements and get approved. So that's all we're doing is just showing you what lenders want. And then we're also going to show you how to have the lenders want you to have so you get approved. So because of that, we can leverage this knowledge and get anyone at least 250,000 in 30 days. In writing, not too good to be true, not smoke and mirrors. It's just following the model. If you follow the model, it works. If you don't follow the model, we don't know what'll happen. All right, so we presented this concept of a legal loophole because we've painted a pretty good picture. Money's out there. We need to have a fundable business. We can buy or build. Buying is a better option, but often buying a business can be expensive, right? Because if we're going to go buy a fundable hotel or restaurant or accounting firm or whatever other business, they're not going to give it away cheap, right? Because it's a fundable business. So you'd have to, that would seem like a barrier. We found kind of a hybrid approach, which is called the SPE, which I referenced earlier. The special purpose entity is a legal entity that's designed specifically to get funding. So it's of the buy versus build option. So it has those benefits. It's quick, it's fast, it can produce money right away. But we do not have to be concerned about how are we going to afford it because through the grant, we're able to provide the SPEs with no out of pocket. Doesn't mean it's free. And in fact, there's a $5,000 deposit for the SPE. However, we have financing for everyone. So anyone can follow the strategy if they choose to. So then the logical person would ask, well, what's included in this SPE and what is the formula for funding? So we're going to answer both of those over the next minute because the same content on the page is both. This is what is included in the SPE model, and this is also what's required for funding. That doesn't mean you have to have an SPE to get a business loan, but the attributes match that criteria. So the first thing that we're going to need to have is a compliant business entity. It could be a LLC, a C Corp, S Corp, what have you. But we need to have a business entity that is compliant. In other words, current, up to date with any state and federal filings. So we provide that with the SPE because we know it's needed. It's number one. Now, if you already have that, fine. That's great. That's you're one third of the way there. But we do need to have a credible, compliant business or the model won't work. Not too hard to obtain though, right? The second is a loan package, and this is really meaning the paperwork, the administrative side of what the lenders want to see. They're going to want to typically see a business plan, financials, and feasibility data. So we provide all of that with the SPE. However, certainly you could go build your own business plan. You could build your own financial projections 36 months out. You could go hire someone to do the feasibility data for you. They want it to be objective. They don't want you to do the feasibility data, but you can do your own business plan and financials. So that's the second element of the formula for funding, which is in fact included automatically with the SPE, which makes sense because we're providing a solution that provides a fundable business. The third element is multifaceted in itself, and it's talking about the credibility of the borrower. And so we're looking at the three C's: creditworthiness, collateral, and capacity. Credit has two applications. What is the business creditworthiness? So in the SPE, we add trade lines, and these are real primary trade lines that can be used. We like to add company cars. Don't have to do that, but that's where we usually start. We've done that. You'll see a picture of our company 911 GT3 on the website on spfunding.com. But the bottom line is we need the business to be credit worthy, and that's why we add the trade lines to the SPE. On the business owner side, they meaning the banks, the lenders, want to see credit worthiness on the business owner side. Well, you might say, well, that's a conflict because I just said recently that credit's not an issue. Well, through the grant, through the SPE, we'll provide a cosigner if needed for that large business loan. So lenders do want, for most types of funding, credit worthiness, but we'll provide the cosigner if needed. So that's the first of the three C's. The second is collateral. Those are the assets that the borrower are able to pledge to the lender that in case the loan's not repaid as agreed, that it mitigates the risk to the lender. So collateral could be real estate you own unencumbered. In other words, no liens against it, maybe even automobiles, equipment, your retirement account. But a lot of people, and normally lenders, I should say, want dollar for dollar collateral. So let's say you want a $250,000 loan. Normally the lender would say, well, show us the 250,000 collateral that you're going to put up. A lot of people will be sarcastic and say, well, if I had 250,000 in collateral, I wouldn't need the loan. But separate from that, if the lender wants collateral, we need to give them collateral. So we built that into the SPE. We provide that dollar for dollar collateral. But if you're to do it on your own, not a problem. You got to bring your own collateral. Third and final C is capacity, also referred to as cash flow. What that means is we can demonstrate to the lender that we have enough money coming into our business that we can afford to pay the debt payments each month. It'd be low interest, usually 120-month, 10-year repayment terms, but there's still payments too, right? When you borrow money, they're expecting to pay it back. A lot of people can't satisfy the lender's expectation of capacity. So again, we provide that. So we provide the shelf corp, the loan package, and all three C's with the SPE. Any questions, just let us know. Type it into the Q&A. So ultimately, I've shown you the bigger picture. I've shown you the plan that we offer through the grant. The question a lot of times is, do you qualify for that? I don't know, but your first step to determine that is to go to formulaforfunding.com. It'll take you 1 to 3 minutes to fill out simple information. And then one of our funding attorneys, our team now, which wasn't always the case, but now is composed of legal professionals, primarily attorneys, but also some paralegals. So the point is, go to formulaforfunding.com, fill out the little form. One of our funding attorneys will follow up and will determine if you qualify. And if you qualify, then we'll give you a written guarantee as stated here, that you'll have at least 250,000 in 30 days. So we'll put uh, put in writing and commit that this model works, so you don't have any risk. So with that, let's open it up for Q&A. Again, our next step would be for you to go to formulaforfunding.com and fill that out. Who has questions, comments, concerns for us today? And I do need to keep it a little bit more concise. I have a meeting that starts in 7 minutes. So anyone have any pressing questions, comments, concerns? If you need more information, I would first go to formulaforfunding.com, fill out that form, and let's get one of our funding attorneys to reach out to you and answer your questions. And then if you qualify and you want to participate in the grant, then you're welcome to. The grant covers most, it's grant subsidized. The SPE program, there is a $5,000 deposit, but it's financed. It comes out of the financing. You don't have to pay it out of pocket. Even if credit's not so good, we have over 40 different lenders that have agreed to finance that deposit. Some of them do not have minimum credit scores. Frankly, some of them are guaranteed approval because we'll back it up. So that's your next step. If you'd like to join us back tomorrow, you're welcome to. We'll be back normally most weekday mornings. You can bring a friend, bring a guest. But the next step is formulaforfunding.com. Hope that you'll participate, take advantage of this, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.